Thank you, Sandy. Our next speaker, Rick Drew, is a former Kissimmee police officer, friend and partner of fallen officer Thomas Bartholomew, and the driving force behind the Fallen Officers Memorial, located in Kissimmee Police Department. Please welcome Rick Drew.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Chief, for allowing me to come up and speak this afternoon. It certainly is an honor for me. I've sat through a number of these ceremonies in my life, and it's very common for us to recognize our civic leaders and our elected officials, but rarely do we really recognize you. And when I say you, I'm talking about those of you who pin a badge or a star to your chest every morning and strap a gun to your waist in order for the rest of us to be safe. And I think I can speak on behalf of our civic leaders, our elected officials, and say that you are indeed our special guest today. And I think we can do that. You know, if someone praises a police officer for a job well done, or if they ask you about how you feel about the danger that you're in front of each day, more than likely, you'll just pass it off and say it's just your job. But it's a lot more than that. And it's unfortunate that a lot of us probably don't recognize the dangers that are associated with the jobs that you have. And I certainly do. So I just want to say that I certainly do appreciate your service. And I want to say that why I'm up here today is I served with the Kissimmee Police Department during one of its most tragic moments in its entire history. On July the 19th, 1983, the Orlando Sentinel and the television stations around Central Florida, they woke us up with the news of the death of Officer Bartholomew. I'm going to tell you, that hit our police department like a sledgehammer. What the newspapers and the TV reporters didn't report on was how difficult it was for the Kissimmee police officers and the rest of the employees to deal with this tragedy. The law enforcement officers, regardless of whether you're wearing a badge or you're wearing a star, you become case hardened. And I think all of you can certainly relate to that. You're in front of so many tragic events throughout your life, and you see so many horrible things that you build this wall around you to protect yourself from all of these things. But the death of a brother can dismantle even this most solid armor you might have protecting you. What the cameras didn't see, and what the reporters didn't see, was the tears that were falling down the faces of these case-hardened police officers at the loss of Tom. On July the 18th of 1983, Officer Bartholomew had just checked out for dinner at John Lane's house on Huey Street, right across from this high school. He was getting ready to have a spaghetti supper, and the tone alert sounded, signal 22 and 0. He took a 10-8, and he was 10-50 once back up. And I imagine when he left, he probably told him to keep the spaghetti warm, but he took off anyway. We all know he never returned. With total disregard for his own safety, Officer Bartholomew, during a heroic attempt to try to save a lady who was being held hostage at gunpoint, placed his own life in jeopardy. And he tried to pull this lady from the person holding her hostage. And as he did so, the man pulled his gun up, pointed it apart, and pulled the trigger, and ended his life. It was a very difficult time for all of us. It was a difficult time for his shift supervisor who was there, and it was a very difficult time for the rest of the squad who had to witness the death of one of their own. The last time I saw Bart's body, I was called by my lieutenant and said Bart had died and that he was in the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, it really hadn't sunk into me what had happened. But I saw all the police cars and the unmarked cars in the parking lot, and I knew something was really bad. I walked in and I looked in the emergency room, and I saw a body covered by a white sheet and black boots protruding from the end of it. And it really hit me hard. it was definitely his last call. I was one of 6 people who were carrying his coffin at his funeral. I stood at attention with hundreds of other people as they played the taps. And I can remember the spasmodic pain that I felt when the 21-gun salute went off. It was very difficult for all of us. But he did die a hero's death. But the funny thing is, folks, he didn't mean to die. That's the last thing on his mind, I didn't mean. And I'm sure, like most of you, had he saved that woman's life, he would have been embarrassed by the attention that he would have received from it. But he did indeed save her life and lost his. But what he did that night was he didn't just give up his life. Like other officers, he gave up the opportunity for his daughters to have a father. He gave up the opportunity for his mother and father to have a son, and his wife to have a husband. He gave up a lot more things than just himself. And he left all of us so quickly. He left us without saying goodbye. So I'd like to make a request of all of you today wearing badges and wearing stars. And this is very important for you. In preparation for your tour of duty, when you're putting on your vest, your gun, and your badge, don't forget to stop and say goodbye to the people in your home and to hug and kiss your children and your wife. Because if you're called on to make that ultimate sacrifice, you're going to have to leave them with something. And those last moments that they have with you, having hugged and kissed you goodbye, you would be surprised just how important those are. In closing, I think it's very important for every one of you who are carrying a badge, carrying a gun and wearing a badge, to understand that this ceremony isn't just for those distinguished gentlemen that you see in front of you. This ceremony is for every one of you, so that you know that this community and the leaders in this community won't ever let you be forgotten in the event you're called upon to do the same things. And I would like to personally thank all of you. I certainly wish you all a very healthy and happy long career as law enforcement officers, and certainly do hope that God bless you all with that. Thank you very much for being here today.